What's up, duelists? As you guys can see, Dueling Book is undergoing some pretty serious server maintenance. Hopefully this means the end of Dueling Book lag. I'm hopeful, but as you can tell, I need to get out a video. I need to make something happen. I need to do something for you guys, the viewers, the people. And what can I do? What's popular right now but these videos where Magic players rate the best Yu-Gi-Oh card. Magic player rates the best Yu-Gi-Oh card. Magic player rates the best. Magic player tries to understand Yu-Gi-Oh card. They all use the same thumbnail. You aren't creative. Soy Jack Harder. Magic player rates. Okay, we get it. We get it. Magic player learns how to tie their shoes for the first time. We know Magic players cannot accurately evaluate Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Why? Because they're Magic players. Their game takes lands. It just doesn't work. But it did get me thinking. What would happen if a Yu-Gi-Oh player were to try and rate Yu-Gi-Oh cards? Catastrophe? What if a Yu-Gi-Oh player were to try to accurately evaluate how good a Yu-Gi-Oh card is, or how good a Yu-Gi-Oh card is going to be? So today's video, I'm going to be talking about some cards throughout history where Yu-Gi-Oh players have, historically fucked up, basically. They have not accurately evaluated how strong a card is. Hopefully, you guys like this kind of thing. If you do, go ahead and hit subscribe. If not, leave a comment. Tell me why you hate it. You get the idea. We're gonna go ahead and jump through time. Jump through a journey through time. Nope, too far. One tab too many. Journey through time. There we go. First off, we're gonna go chronologically here. If you guys have been playing Yu-Gi-Oh as long as I have, then you guys are gonna recognize this first card. This first card is Mukamuka. Mukamuka is a card that you pulled in your Metal Raiders pack, and you're like, God, you were seething as a child. You were like, fucking Mukamuka. Why am I opening this instead of Thousand Dragon? Why didn't I pull the card that Joey Wheeler uses to defeat the girl in the show? That's what you wanted. But in reality, Mukamuka was actually insanely powerful. Not only is this a card you can tutor with Sangan and Witch of the Black Forest, but on the first turn of the game, it's really strong. Actually, really powerful card. Huge attack points for the time. It could attack over almost anything, easily beating over Aqua Madour, Giant Soldier of Stone, those types of things. Easily defeating cards like La Jin and even Dark Elf in combat. In Critter format, which is the Metal Raiders format, this is now an absolute all-star. It's one of the best cards in the format. It's one of the strongest openers. And I can see why. I mean, just stat-wise, it's very good. It has those low stats in the deck where it counts, and it has the high stats on the field where it counts. So definitely a card that we all misevaluated. Honestly, when we were kids, I don't remember anyone playing this card. If anything, this was in a bunch of people's junk pile. It definitely could have seen play probably throughout, at least throughout Metal Raiders until we get to the next set. It was definitely a card that was historically misevaluated. Okay, let me show you another cool picture of Mukamuka. This is a super rare Mukamuka. Ooh, that gives me that good serotonin. I want one of these bad boys. I'm actually probably going to pick one of these up as soon as this video is done, because this looks kind of clean, actually. Sick card. Definitely under-evaluated by Yu-Gi-Oh players, because, sometimes we see 2 stars, 600, 300, variable stats. I don't want to do math. Too complicated, too difficult, too challenging for my brain. What's another card that is too challenging for my brain? Division. Card that makes me divide numbers. I can't do division, okay? I can only do addition. I can only do subtraction. I cannot do division. So this card must be terrible, right? This is definitely a card that didn't see a lot of play for a while. And historically, upon revision, it is an insane card. This card is a 1-card stop anything. The life point cost, while it can matter in some older formats like GOAT format, you're not slapping this into every deck. It usually is just fine. It is usually just fine to counter your opponent's best card. Even GOAT control decks, even decks where losing life points early on kind of matters, are now playing 3 copies of this in the sideboard very frequently. And decks have popped up as a result of this card being, looked at in hindsight as being one of the most powerful cards of all time. As the game developed, of course, as people started playing the game more and more, we get to Teledad format where people are dying in 1 turn regardless of their life total. Solemn Judgment definitely is reflected on a little bit more accurately, and people are realizing, oh, this card's actually insane. It can negate anything. It can pretty much secure your position no matter what. It stops your opponent's best cards. It forces your opponent to play in awkward ways. And we have calculators now. We have calculators that can divide our life points by 2. And as soon as people realize they could use calculators for their life points. I think that's when we realized Solemn Judgment was going to be the powerhouse that it was. Definitely a misevaluated card for the first maybe 5-6 years of the game, but until we hit about the 2007 era, I mean, people were definitely looking at this one and thinking, you know what? Maybe there's something to this bad boy. Okay, next card. This one's an all-time classic for misevaluation. Upstart Goblin. Why everyone played Upstart Goblin? Well, to answer that question, they didn't. Nobody really played this card in hindsight because they were thinking it's just 1-for-1, right? And you give your opponent 1,000 life points, minus 9,000 or whatever, minus 1,000. That was the meme, right? That was the meme. And life points actually did matter back in the day. I mean, people evaluated them very, very strongly to the point where like we even see this card not really seeing that much play even today in Edison format because life points are pretty significant. However, we did pretty significantly misevaluate the power of this card. I mean, just seeing your Pot of Greed more consistently, seeing your whatever more consistently is just worth it 99% of the time. This card is very good. It was definitely a card that people slept on until, of course, Patrick Hoban famously, just started playing 3 and everything and was like, I'm just going to play 3 and everything and draw my best cards more often. And people adopted that and realized, yeah, this is the truth. This card's insane. Especially once you get to the point where life points don't really matter, your position is all that matters. Upstart Goblin really becomes the truth. And also in formats where drawing your power cards is end all be all, then Upstart Goblin is definitely the truth. It doesn't see a lot of play nowadays simply because it's at 1, it plays into Droll and Lockbird, it conflicts with stuff like Pot of Prosperity, it's not good going second. There's a lot of reasons why Upstart Goblin isn't played nowadays, but there's a period of time between like I think 2012 and maybe 2017 where almost every single deck that was playing 40 cards should probably also be playing Upstart Goblin at the maximum legal number. If we're being real. Okay, next card that was historically misevaluated. Historically misevaluated card. The next one is... It's not coming up. Trap Dustshoot. There we go. Yeah, Trap Dustshoot. This card's insane. I mean, this is basically confiscation, but better. Because you get to use it during your opponent's draw phase. You get to see the card that they draw. And it doesn't put the card in the graveyard. Sure, you can't hit spell cards. True, you can't hit trap cards. But you do get to look at their hand in the draw phase. You get to see the full information. And you get to shuffle the monster back into the deck, which is insane. This card was legal at 3 for way longer than it should have been. It's one of those cards that nobody played during GOAT format. And now in hindsight, people are definitely playing in GOAT format. It's a really disgusting card. The only downside is they have to have 4 or more cards in their hand. So it's really only good in those early stages of the game. And as the game progresses and both players are top decking more, it's not as good. But this card's insane. And to a lesser degree, there's a card recently, the Appointer of the Red Lotus, that finally got limited. Honestly, I think Appointer of the Red Lotus should be banned in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's basically Trap Dustshoot, but better, if we're being real. Yeah, Appointer of the Red Lotus, definitely a card that is similar to Trap Dustshoot, and in hindsight, also very, very broken now that the games are played out in increments of 1 turn, more or less. This card, incredibly broken, decides a lot of games in Edison format, and it was honestly underrated all the way through Edison format. If I remember correctly, let me pull up the list. Let me see if I can pull up those lists, actually. You know what, we're gonna deviate a little bit. SJC Edison, top 32 deck lists. Let's see if we can pull this up. Top 16 deck list, Edison, New Jersey. Okay, let's check this out. I'm pretty sure, in hindsight, yeah, most people weren't even playing Trap Dustshoot in their decks. First place, no Trap Dustshoot in the entire set of 55. Second place, no Trap Dustshoot in the entire 55. Third place, what do we got? Do we got Trap Dustshoot? No Trap Dustshoot in the entire 55. Fourth place, finally, we got 1 Trap Dustshoot. 1 Trap Dustshoot in the top 4. Totally different story from what we see nowadays, where every single deck is playing Trap Dustshoot if they play trap cards at all. It's one of the best cards. So even back in 2010, this card was definitely misevaluated as being one of the most powerful cards in the format, for sure. So crazy that we we played this game and we don't accurately understand exactly what's up. Okay, next card. Aha, baited you with this one. This card fucking sucks. Stop telling me to play this card. All right, next card. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, another Edison All-Star. This is one of those cards. Again, if we go back to this top 32, if we try and find Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, let's go ahead and see if we can find that. There's Command F. Absolute 0 copies in the top 32, which is insane because this was a tier 0 deck during Edison format. There's 0 copies of Absolute Zero in the top 32. Incredibly underrepresented. One of the best decks. Right now, probably a tier 1 deck in Edison format. The Absolute Zero decks. Definitely an insane card. It plays really well into all of the cards in the format. And it even sees some play in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Today in the hero decks, which just speaks to this card's power level. When it leaves the field, destroys all your opponent's monsters. A very, very good effect. I mean, you could make it leave the field proactively by using it as a fusion material. You could use it to just play into your opponent's removal spells and then nuke their monsters if you get hit by a removal spell. And then, of course, it has a huge body to back it up if you're playing water monsters, which obviously you are. You can get this card up to like 3,500 attack pretty easily. Very, very strong card. Very, very historically underrated, undervalued. Kind of shocking that people weren't onto the Miracle Fusions, onto the Absolute Zero shenanigans in Edison format when it was probably at its best, if I'm going to be real. Okay, next card. Tour Guide from the Underworld. Which, little asterisk. People realized pretty fucking quickly how broken it was. But upon release, Tour Guide from the Underworld was a TCG exclusive, and we didn't yet have Xyz monsters, I think Tour Guide from the Underworld came out slightly before Xyz monsters. It was weird because this card, it started off as being like a $25, $30 card upon release, and then as soon as Leviathan came out, people were like, oh, and it was like a $150, $200 card immediately after, making it one of the most expensive sort of staple cards that you needed to play in almost every single deck ever in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is crazy. When it first came out, people were using it in plant decks, in chaos decks with Dimensional Alchemist, Blackluster Soldier to try and just tutor Sangan, and honestly, that was good enough. Summon Tour Guide and just having 4 copies of Sangan was a strong plan. Even before Xyz, having extra access to your Sangan, which gets you extra access to any hand trap you wanted, any sort of combo piece you wanted, quick draw, whatever Debris Dragon you wanted, Lone Fire, whatever you wanted, that was good enough. And then add on top of that, once Xyz came out, it was a 1-card rank 3, which made Lever or the other guy, Leviathan, and that's just crazy. I mean, this card was definitely undervalued within those few times it came out. And honestly, it's still a good card today. I mean, it sees some play in Burning Abyss decks. It sees some play in certain rank 3 decks. Or not rank 3. Yeah, rank 3, I guess would be the words. Historically undervalued. But just in a small period of time. Not so much as some of these other cards, like Absolute Zero, which was slept on for over a decade. But yeah. Next card. Pot of Desires. This was the card that got the discussion for this video even going in the Discord. If you guys want to join the format library or the edisonformat.com Discords, there's links to those in the description below. People were talking about when Pot of Desires came out, it was just like this weird commotion behind it where nobody really knew if this card was good. Turns out Pot of Greed is a good card. Turns out it doesn't matter that you no longer have those 10 cards in your deck. It turns out Pot of Greed is just the truth. And historically, this has been the case. I mean, most recently, we've seen it have a lot of success in Bird Up and Sword Soul decks. And it's been pretty much a mainstay card in a lot of different decks since its release. Pot of Greed, can't really go wrong with it. Banishing the top 10 cards of your deck, it's not exactly a -9. It turns out cards in hand, 2 in 1 in the hand, 2 in the hand is better than 10 in the bush, or whatever the phrase is. And that's definitely the case for Pot of Desires. And then last, but definitely not least, we got to talk about dangers. Of course, a lot of people talked about the dangers upon first release. They were like, man, these cards are RNG, they suck. And then you realize, oh, this is just better Upstart Goblin. They're dark monsters, they give you a free body, they can, thin your deck, they can turbo you through your engines, and of course, the artwork is adorable on most of them. Nowadays, you see them in the best deck of the format, Terrament, or the second best, depending on your opinion on things. There have been mainstays in Thunder Dragon decks. They've been mainstays in, Orcus decks, all sorts of different danger strategies, danger, Grenmaju decks. I'm sure there's other danger decks that have been played that just draw very consistently thanks to these little guys. Very powerful cards, a lot of them having a home on the limited or restricted list. And they just have, insane upside. If they're discarded even by other effects, you get their second effect, which is really powerful, honestly. You discard this card for cost, it special summons itself. You discard Nessie, it searches. You discard Jackalope, it's special. You get the idea. And then, of course, I want to talk about one last thing, which is a card that's upcoming, which I've seen, the similar sort of commotion on, which is the Fenrir card. Oops, this guy's a little bit zoomed in. The Kshatrila Fenrir. This is a very powerful card that's being released in the next set. Darkness Blaze, DABL. What the hell is the name of that set? I don't know what the name of the set is. DABL. It's getting released in the new set. And this is one of those cards that there's a lot of speculation that it's going to be very powerful. We have the OCG to look at. It's a very powerful card in OCG. But it's possibly a card that all of us Yu-Gi-Oh players are misevaluating. It might be a little underpowered in the TCG. In the OCG, they have Max C, so their metagame is very, very different. Cards like Fenrir can really shine in those metagames, whereas in the TCG, we don't know for sure. It's still a very powerful effect. Special summon for free, replaces itself for free, banishes anything for free, more or less, as long as you get a battle phase, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, which is going to be 99.9% of the games you play. So I think it's definitely a card we shouldn't sleep on, and it's definitely a card that has a lot of potential to be a format warping card. But as of right now, I'm not exactly sure where this card's going to slot into. It's a little bit fair for what the metagame's shaping up to be, especially looking at what's happening with like Sprite and Runics, and just the way the metagame interacts right now is it's a lot of like sacrificing your cards for Lava Golem, or it's a lot of, not so much Link monsters, because the Link decks are, they're good, right? But a lot of the Link decks that are being played right now are like Sprite Elf. You can't really use Fenrir as a material for Sprite Elf, that kind of thing. So we'll see. This card could be good. It could be good as a way to fight off Dimension Shifter decks if you're playing a graveyard heavy strategy. It could be good as a way to just sort of mid-range your way to a couple of wins if your opponent has a slow start. But I'm not actually sure how good this card is, and neither are a lot of other people. It's kind of in the air right now. So let me know if there's any cards that were historically misevaluated in the comments below. Let me know if you guys like this kind of, quick little video. And let me know if you guys want to see more of this kind of thing, because I could definitely do a part 2 of this. Or I could do a different, formula where it's like cards we over-evaluated or cards we whatever, It's an interesting little concept of a video. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you like the stuff. Go check out the Edison stuff if you like it. Become a member if you want the cube list. Become a member if you want exclusive content. Plugs. See you guys in the next vid. Peace out.